Hello, here is Rita Mind, the introvert corporate professional who decided to start her side business despite some very nice friends who predicted her failure in business due to her introvert personality. Hopefully, I didn't listen to them. And I used my own method to free myself of my own fears, self-doubts, and even some nightmares. And this is the same method that I'm using now in my journeys into the subconscious mind and also in my journaling workshops that you may know, unless you are very new friends. I had several workshops such as Your Job Can Become Your Best Ally, Stronger Than Chocolate, Stronger Than Imposter Syndrome, and there will be Stronger Than, and it's surprise. I will let you see. And today I'm talking to Kirstyn Lazur, who is the author of I Was Cursed in Connecticut, a memoir that recounts her unique and supernatural journey after the death of her mother. So I will let you, Kirstyn, present yourself. Tell us who you are, what you are doing, what motivated you to do what you are doing.
Thank you so much. And first, I just want to honor you and honor your journey and the work that you're doing in the world right now. It's so important. Who am I? Wow. I think today I want to introduce myself as I am love. And let that be a full sentence because I've done a lot of different jobs. I've had a lot of different roles that I've played on this beautiful planet Earth. But I think the one that I am embodying now is really just to hold presence for people so that they can self express, so that they can let their creativity flow through them. So, in the ways that I do that right now in the world, I teach different movement classes. I teach bar, I teach bounce. I also am a writer. So, of course, you introduced my memoir. I've written a memoir. And right now, I'm also helping people write their stories and their memoirs.
Oh, great. And tell us more about your book. What motivated you to write a book?
Mm. Well, the universe told me I had to. There was no wiggle room. There was no getting out of it because I tried many times to get out of it. So I'll start with this. I remember when I was a child, I remember loving to write, and I would. This was in the day where I would say maybe third grade, fourth grade, where I don't know if they did this in your school, but we would make up our story, we would illustrate it, draw the pictures for it, and then it would become this little book. And we used, I think, wallpaper for the cover, and we'd write a title on it. And I was just in love with this. And I remember thinking one day as I got older, I hope I don't run out of ideas because I was just making these stories up and they were so much fun. And suddenly the thought came like, oh, what if I run out? Like the scarcity mindset. Like, what if I run out of ideas? And I remember praying. I said, God, please don't let me run out of ideas. And what ended up happening is I went on a very academic track, that creative spirit often gets squashed as we track through school and go on to our studies in university, or in my case, I went to get a master's in English literature, and then I went on to get a PhD. I finally stopped during my PhD, though, and I said, okay, wait, hold the madness. But I was on this very academic track thinking I would write, journal articles, publish academic books, teach at university. Um, But God gave me that story. God gave me the story through my life, because my life became so strange, stranger than fiction, stranger than anything I could possibly invent. And so I knew when I was going through it that I was going through something very, very bizarre and something that no one else ever talked about. So I said, wow, I can't find a book about this. I guess I have to write the book. And that was a scary thought for me, because writing your life on the page and just being very open is very vulnerable, right? And so I went back and forth for a very long time. Like, should I write the book? Shouldn't I write the book? Do I use my own name? Do I publish it like it's fiction? And the universe kept calling me back into the truth of myself and said, no, you're going to write it as nonfiction, memoir, and you're going to use your name and tell the story as it happened. So that's how I came to write my book. I was pushed by the universe.
By the life events?
By life events, yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking about writing other books, or just let the universe decide it?
Well, I do have a book in mind that I think will be written. Right now, I'm very much at the very beginning stages of it. And because memoir is uh, it's so alive for me. At this point, I don't care to write fiction. So right now, I'm sort of letting my life play out in the events that it will, right? And I'm waiting for that epiphany moment, because I truly think that before you start writing a book for others to read, and journaling is a totally different experience, right? But before you write books for others to read, your book has to have a message and you have to know the message. So I know the questions that I'm asking right now. I know the topic of what it's going to be about, but I don't yet know the book's message. I haven't quite hit oh, this is what it is. So I'm right in the beginning stages of just being open to whatever spills out on the page in my journalings. And, but I think there will be another book coming in maybe a couple of years.
Well, it's better to let life decide the best moment. You can't push the things too much.
No, not at all. And this is for anyone out there that's working on a creative project. It's so frustrating sometimes, because you think, oh, it's going to be done in a month, or it's going to be done next year, and you try to put a timeline on it, you try to put a deadline on it. And you're right, life has other plans. And as I was just telling you, I got off the phone with a friend who was just telling me her birth story. And it is like giving birth when you give birth to your creative
Of course.
project. And life has its own divine timing of when that baby's going to come, right? So for her, she was expecting the baby next month. It came a month early. So we never know. And we have to allow ourselves that space and the patience and compassion for ourselves. And trust. Trust is a huge one. Just trust that it does all have divine timing, and it will happen when it's absolutely supposed to happen.
I'm doing the same with my workshops. Sometimes I feel like they are babies and I have to mother them to prepare their launch, their arrival in this world.
Yes.
It's nice. And I've also seen that you are teaching writing. You have a writing club for other people who are looking forward to write their own books, to choose their topic. Do they decide to write their books in the same way that you do?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so our writers group is for anyone, even if you're not sure if you want to write a book, but you know that you feel you have to write, that you have to get words on page. And sometimes we don't always make time for that. Or we get involved in our daily thing, and it's hard, right? So it's a group that we do sit down as a collective to write something every week. And so in that exercise, just in itself, just letting your heart speak on the page, letting the words flow out is very cathartic. Do people use the same technique as I do? Right now, I'm working with someone one-on-one, and I feel that working one-on-one with someone, you start to learn how they work best, right? So my job is to hold the space and kind of strategize and figure out how I can create a space where they feel safe and supported, first of all, because a lot of the people who are drawn to working with me often have a story that is taboo, or that they feel shame around still, that they're still healing. So it could be abuse, it could be a family dynamic that is not very easy to talk about. So that piece, it's really important that you have a supportive environment. So that's number one for me. And then number two, like I said, I try to find what works for them and ways to hold them accountable to showing up for themselves in terms of writing. And then, of course, the next stage is to actually structure the book. And each person has their own unique vision of what the book is. And so for me, it's staying true to that person's vision, at the same time giving them the structure and the elements that they need to make it a page turner. Because not all of if I were to take my journal and give it to you, you probably wouldn't want to read any of it, right? You'd probably get through one page and be like, okay, Kirstyn, I kind of had enough. So there's a certain structure of the scenes that you want to set up for your reader when it comes time for that stage, so that your reader stays with the story, keeps turning the page, hopefully stays up all night reading your book. So that's what I help with. But yes, I help with structure, but yes, I honor the vision of that artist that is creating their book.
Usually, what kind of obstacles do you see in the members of your writing club?
Ooh, a lot of it is not feeling that they have time to show up for their writing. A lot of them have children, a full-time job, or sometimes two jobs, and so they don't feel they have the time. And my advice to them is always, how do you feel when you do make the time, even if it's just 10 minutes? How do you feel after that? And usually their answers are profound. They usually feel this big weight has been lifted, or that they feel free. So there's such a gift when we do make the time, and it doesn't have to be a very long amount of time, but it's an honoring of yourself. It's an honoring of actually life itself when you take the time to document and honor what your lived experience is, what your feelings are.
You're also talking about healing through writing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you also encourage them to heal from the story first and then write, or maybe also write during the healing process? What do you think?
Yeah, in the writing process is another layer of healing. So sometimes events that happen to us that we can't fully process in that moment, right, become stored in us, and we start acting from that place, right? As you know, with the imposter syndrome and all of that stuff that you already talk about in your workshops. So one of the ways that we can heal from those experiences that we weren't able to process in the moment is, of course, being able to process it on the page. And for me, I know that it's really challenging for me to speak it. So you can be in therapy and you can speak it out. Um, you can also move your body and move it out. I love that form as well. But then there's something really special about writing it on the page. It takes a more formalized form, first of all, and it also is something that lasts, right? If I do a dance in the moment, it's beautiful, and then it's gone. It has its moment. But the page is something that, wow, that could actually last, right? So it's an honoring of your experience, a witnessing of your experience. And when you have that supportive, safe environment of other people around you encouraging you to write it, I think it can be super, super healing. And there were moments that when I was writing my story, I had tears pouring on the page, and I thought, well, this is really weird because I thought I had healed that part of my story. And yet when I wrote it, there was obviously more emotion that was coming through. Emotion, just energy and motion, right? So it
Amazing.
showed to me like, wow, this is, our healing is a spiral. And so we revisit different parts that need to be healed from a different place. And so for me, writing is that revisiting from a different place, from a place of love, from a witnessing and an observing viewpoint, that you can hold your own story, you can hold your own self, you can hold your own healing in that space.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kirstyn, I think we are approaching to the end because I don't like to do very long interviews. If people want to reach you, maybe to read your book, maybe they are interested in your book, or maybe to be coached in writing a book,
Mm-hmm.
where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on kirstynlazur.com. I know that's a mouthful. That's my website. And it's KirstynLazur, like zebra, UR.com. And you'll find the first page will show you my book and tell you a little bit more about what that book is about. And it will also guide you to ways that you can write your own memoir or work with me one-on-one or join our writers group.
Okay, I think I will add the website in the comments of the interview, and also the link to the book, because I think, yeah, you gave me a link. And what gift are you offering for us?
Oh, yeah. So for writer friends out there who want to explore more about writing their own memoir, I have a little training. It's very short, it's about 10 minutes long, but it asks some really potent questions to get you on the track of thinking about your overall message to your reader and how to get started. Because when you nail down that message, you've started the most important work. The foundation of your book is your book's message. So that's what the training is.
Of course,
Mm-hmm.
there are introvert entrepreneurs and introvert professionals following me, maybe not introvert persons, not only. Anyways, nobody is 100% introvert. That's sure. Nobody fits in a box. So I'm sure that there are people who think about writing a book or just sharing their stories, even if they are in a full-time job. As you said, some people have children, others have one job or two jobs. Okay.
Yeah, it's getting the call, right? It's just getting the call, and it won't leave you alone. That sensation that's pulling you to write the book, it will not leave you alone until you do it. So might as well do it. Just do it.
Okay, so I'll add the link to that tutorial also.
Mhm.
And do you have something more to add? Something more to
Mm.
say to our audience?
Well, yeah, in closing, I would just thank you, Rita, for having me, and thank you to your audience for watching. I would just like to say, because we're in such amazing and oftentimes scary times, it's kind of both at the same time. Um, I feel that at this particular moment in time, we are all being called to step into another version of ourselves that are it's beyond our limits that we perceive. It's even beyond words. And I think in that calling, we are going to see more and more people step into coherence with what is really inside of them and bringing that forward into the world even more. Um, that's it's so awesome right now to be alive. So I just want to impart to everyone watching that if you're going through a challenging time right now and you feel like that this stuff that's brewing inside of you is overwhelming. I've been there. And as the amazing human that you are, you have the capacity to transmute and alchemize that experience. And one very powerful way to do that is to turn it into art. So draw, write a poem, dance around, be silly. And that's how we get to transmute all of that stuff into something of beauty. And so I wish all of you just a beautiful evolutionary experience here on planet Earth.
Sometimes also sending a teaching to other people, because sometimes experiences are similar, and you think that your story may be silly, and actually it helps other people overcome a fear, a
Yes,
difficult moment.
yes, absolutely. And teaching is an art form. So storytelling, it's so powerful.
Thank you for showing up this evening, or this afternoon or morning, depending on time zones. I hope it's not in the middle of the night for some people. Thank you one more time. It was really a pleasure to speak to you. And I hope we are inspiring lots of people in our audiences.
Yes.
And see you maybe in another interview.